everyone, Sarah here. Rewind Justice brings you revenge stories that will blow your mind. If you're ready, hit subscribe and let's go.
Growing up in the Chin family meant understanding your place. My sister Victoria was the golden child. Harvard Law, corporate attorney at 28, engaged to a hedge fund manager. I was Maya, the quiet one who never applied herself. At family dinners, Mom would beam about Victoria's latest case while I pushed food around my plate. Dad would ask about her billable hours, her partnership track, her luxury condo in downtown San Francisco. When they bothered to acknowledge me, it was always the same question. Still doing that secretary thing? I never corrected them. There was no point. Victoria made sure everyone knew the hierarchy. At my college graduation, she'd introduced me to her law school friends as my little sister who's going into admin work. At Mom's 60th birthday, she'd loudly discussed my cute little entry-level position, while her colleagues nodded sympathetically. The worst part wasn't the dismissal. It was how comfortable she was with it. She genuinely believed she was better than me, that her path was the only one that mattered, that my choices were evidence of failure rather than strategy. I'd started as an executive assistant at a tech startup in 2018, fresh out of Berkeley with a computer science degree nobody in my family bothered to ask about. While Victoria was grinding through law school, accumulating debt and prestige in equal measure, I was learning how venture capital actually worked from the inside. My boss, Amanda Sterling, was a second-time founder who'd sold her first company for $80 million. She didn't need an assistant who could just schedule meetings. She needed someone who understood code, could analyze competitor products, and had the strategic mind to help build something that would change an industry. "You're wasted in this role," Amanda told me 6 months in. "But I'm grateful you're here." By 2019, I'd moved from executive assistant to chief of staff. By 2020, Amanda offered me equity, 3% of the company. My family assumed I was still scheduling conference rooms. The silent build. What my family didn't know could fill a Fortune magazine feature. Which, as it turns out, it eventually did. In 2021, Amanda's company, NeuralFlow, an AI-powered data analytics platform, raised a Series B at a $400 million valuation. My 3% was suddenly worth $12 million on paper. I didn't tell anyone. I just kept showing up to family dinners in my Honda Civic, letting Victoria dominate every conversation. "Maya still doesn't own property," Victoria announced at Christmas that year. "Still renting that studio in Oakland." She said Oakland, the way someone might say, a cardboard box. "Real estate is an excellent investment," her fiancé Brandon added, swirling his wine. "We just closed on our third property." "That's wonderful," I said, meaning it. I'd closed on a 4-bedroom house in Piedmont the previous month, paying cash. The deed was in an LC. My family had no idea. By 2022, NeuralFlow was exploding. We'd landed contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. Our revenue was growing 300% year over year. Amanda was fielding acquisition offers, but she had bigger plans. "I want you as co-founder officially," she told me in March. "Not just equity holder. Equal partner. Co-CEO if we restructure." "Why?" I asked, though I knew the answer. I'd built half our go-to-market strategy. I'd personally closed our biggest clients. I'd hired our entire leadership team. "Because this is as much your company as mine," Amanda said simply. "And because when we go public, I want your name on the prospectus right next to mine." We restructured in April. I became president and co-CEO. My equity increased to 18%. Amanda and I were equal partners in everything except the cap table, and even that was closer than most people knew. The tech press started noticing. TechCrunch ran a profile titled, "The Secret Weapon Behind NeuralFlow's Meteoric Rise." Forbes did a feature on the new generation of female tech leaders. My face was in these articles. My name was in these articles. My family never saw them because they'd never once Googled my name or asked what company I worked for. At Easter 2023, Victoria brought Brandon to show off her engagement ring, a tasteful 2-carat diamond that probably cost $60,000. "Brandon's doing so well," Mom gushed. "Partner track at Silverman Capital." "That's impressive," I said. Silverman Capital managed $800 million. We'd pitched them as potential investors in our Series C and passed. Their returns were mediocre. "What about you, Maya?" Brandon asked with that particular blend of politeness and condescension. Still with that startup? Still there, I confirmed. Brave, he said. Most of those fail, you know. Have you thought about transitioning to something more stable? I could probably get you an interview for an executive assistant role at our fund. Victoria beamed at him like he'd just offered to cure cancer. That's kind of you, I said. I'll keep that in mind. Under the table my phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. Goldman wants in on the Series C. $250 million at a $2.1 billion valuation. Call tomorrow. I typed back, congratulations partner. Talk tomorrow. The reveal setup. Victoria's engagement party was scheduled for June 3, 2023, at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco. She'd been planning it for months, treating it like a royal wedding. The guest list included her law firm partners, Brandon's hedge fund colleagues, and every family member who'd ever attended a Chin gathering. I almost didn't go. I was in New York that week for investor meetings wrapping up our Series C. We'd closed $280 million at a $2.3 billion valuation. Goldman Sachs, Sequoia, and Andreessen Horowitz all invested. The term sheet was signed on June 1st. The same day, Fortune's editorial team sent over the final layout for their September issue. The cover story was titled, The 40 Under 40, Tech's New Power Players. I was number 6 on the list, featured in a 4-page spread about Neuralflow's rise and my journey from unconventional beginnings to co-CEO of one of Silicon Valley's hottest companies. The cover photo showed me in my office, casual but professional with the San Francisco skyline behind me. The caption read, Maya Chin 29 co-CEO of Neuralflow, success isn't about permission. My publicist, yes I had a publicist now, forwarded the advance copy with a note. Congratulations. This hits newsstands June 5th, digital June 3rd. June 3rd. The same day as Victoria's engagement party. I sat in my hotel room staring at the magazine cover on my laptop screen. I could skip the party. I could send a gift and apologize. I could avoid the whole situation. Or I could go and finally stop hiding. The party. The Fairmont's ballroom was decorated in Victoria's signature style. Elegant, expensive, and designed to impress. Ice sculptures, champagne towers, a string quartet. 200 guests mingled in cocktail attire, celebrating the golden couple. I arrived wearing a simple black dress from Reformation, carrying a gift bag from Williams-Sonoma. My family had reserved a table near the back for Maya and guest, though I'd come alone. Victoria spotted me immediately. She was holding court near the champagne fountain, Brandon at her side, both of them glowing with the confidence of people who believed they were at the center of the universe. Paya. Victoria called out loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. You actually came. I walked over, smiling. Wouldn't miss it. Congratulations to both of you. Thank you, Brandon said, shaking my hand with the firm grip of someone who'd taken a seminar on professional presence. Victoria looked me up and down, her smile sharpening. Love the dress. Reformation. So cute for your budget. Several of her friends tittered. I recognized a few from her law firm. Thanks, I said evenly. You look beautiful. Vera Wong, she said, touching her champagne-colored gown. Custom. The wedding dress will be even better. We're going to the atelier in New York next month. That sounds wonderful, I said. Mom appeared at my elbow, kissing my cheek. Maya, sweetie, you remember Victoria's partner from the firm, David Harrison? An older man in an expensive suit extended his hand. Pleasure. Victoria speaks highly of you. Does she? I asked, genuinely surprised. She mentioned you work in administrative support, he said kindly. That's honest work. Not everyone can handle the pressure of corporate law. No, I agreed. Not everyone can. Dad joined us, already 2 drinks and based on the flush in his cheeks. My successful daughter and my other daughter, he announced to the group, laughing at his own joke. Victoria made partner track at 30. Can you believe it? It's impressive, I said. What about you, Maya? Brandon asked, playing the role of interested future family member. Still at that startup? What is it you do there exactly? The group turned to look at me. Victoria's smile was patient, indulgent, waiting for me to explain my cute little job so she could translate it into terms her important friends would understand. I work in leadership, I said simply. Leadership support? David Harrison asked. Like an executive assistant to the leadership team? Something like that, I said. Victoria laughed, touching my arm in a gesture that looked affectionate but felt condescending. Maya's being modest. She's a secretary, but she calls it chief of staff or something corporate sounding. It's basically the same thing. Actually, I started. It's fine, Maya, Victoria interrupted. There's no shame in it. Not everyone can be a lawyer or a financier. Someone has to schedule the meetings and manage the calendars, right? She turned to her friends. It's actually kind of sweet. She's found her niche. The group nodded, some sympathetically, others with barely concealed pity. Must be nice though, one of Brandon's colleagues said. Less stress than what we deal with. Good work-life balance. The balance is fine, I said. I keep telling her she should look for something more stable, Victoria continued, warming to her subject. She'd had just enough champagne to lose her filter. These tech startups are so risky. When it fails, and most of them do, she'll be job hunting in a terrible market for administrative positions. Victoria, Mom said gently, but she was smiling. She didn't disagree. I'm just being realistic, Victoria said. I love my sister. I want her to be okay. But let's be honest, she's almost 30, renting an apartment in Oakland, working at some company nobody's heard of, doing secretary work. It's embarrassing. The word hung in the air. Embarrassing. Several people looked away, uncomfortable. Others nodded slightly. Brandon put a supportive hand on Victoria's shoulder. I mean it with love, Victoria added, looking at me with what she probably thought was sisterly concern. You're smart, Maya. You could probably get a job at a stable company. Maybe even work your way up to executive assistant at a real firm. Brandon was serious about helping you interview at Silverman. That's generous, I said quietly. See. Victoria beamed. Family helps family. That's what matters. She raised her champagne glass. A toast. To family, to love, and to everyone finding their place in the world, wherever that place may be. The group raised their glasses. I raised mine. We all drank. That's when Sarah Lou, one of Victoria's law school classmates, pulled out her phone. She'd been scrolling through Twitter, half listening to the conversation. Suddenly she gasped, her eyes going wide. Oh my God, she said. What? Victoria asked, still glowing from her toast. Sarah held up her phone, showing the screen to the group. Fortune just posted their 40 under 40 list online. It's trending on Twitter. Anyone we know? David Harrison asked with polite interest. Sarah was staring at me, her mouth slightly open. Then she looked at her phone again, then back at me. Maya, she said slowly. Isn't this you on the cover? She turned her phone around. There I was on the Fortune magazine cover in full color. The headline was visible, Tech's New Power Players. My face was centered, professional, confident. The caption underneath, Maya Chin Cosio Neural Flow. The world seemed to freeze. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor, sending glass and champagne spraying across her custom Vera Wang gown. The confrontation. The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like an hour. That's not, Victoria started, but her voice cracked. Sarah was scrolling furiously through her phone. Holy shit. Maya Chin Co-CEO of Neuralflow. The company just raised $280 million Series C at a $2.3 billion valuation. They're one of the hottest AI companies in Silicon Valley. She looked up at me, stunned. This is you. David Harrison grabbed the phone, reading rapidly. His expression changed from polite interest to shock to something like horror. Victoria, did you know about this? That's impossible, Victoria said, but she was staring at me, her face pale. Maya's a secretary. She works for some startup. She doesn't. This isn't. More phones came out. People were searching, finding the Forbes articles, the TechCrunch features, the Bloomberg interview I'd done last month about AI ethics and data privacy. There's a whole Wikipedia page, someone said, sounding odd. She's worth at least $400 million on paper, Brandon said faintly, staring at his phone. Her equity stake in Neuralflow. Jesus Christ. Mom grabbed my arm. Maya? What is this? What's going on? I looked at Victoria. She was standing in a puddle of champagne and broken glass, her perfect dress ruined, her perfect moment destroyed. Her mouth was opening and closing, but no words were coming out. You asked what I do, I said quietly. I'm co-CEO of Neuralflow. Amanda Sterling and I founded the restructured company in 2022. Before that, I was president and chief of staff. Before that, I was her first hire and helped build the company from 12 people to over 800 employees. We're valued at $2.3 billion as of this week. Our revenue last year was $180 million. We're projected to hit $400 million this year. We're planning an IPO for late 2024 or early 2025. The entire ballroom had gone quiet. The string quartet had stopped playing. 200 people were staring at us. But you said, Victoria whispered. I said I work in leadership, I corrected. You said I was a secretary. I never corrected you because it didn't seem worth the argument. You let us think, Dad started, his face flushing. I let you think what you wanted to think, I said. I never lied. You never asked. Not once in 5 years did anyone in this family ask what company I worked for, what my title was, or what I actually did. You just assumed. This is ridiculous, Victoria said, her voice rising. You're making this up. That magazine cover is fake. This is some kind of joke. Sarah held up her phone again. Victoria, there are hundreds of articles. She's been featured in Fortune, Forbes, TechCrunch, Bloomberg, The Wall Street Journal. There's video of her keynoting at TechCrunch Disrupt last year. She's on the board of 2 other companies. This is real. Victoria's hands were shaking. But you drive a Honda. You live in Oakland. You dress like, she gestured at my Reformation dress. I drive a Honda because I like my car. I own a house in Piedmont that I bought with cash. I dress how I want because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I paused. Except apparently I did need to prove something. To you. You embarrassed her, Mom said, her voice sharp, protective of Victoria. You let her say all those things when you knew. When I knew what? I asked. That she'd spent the last 5 years dismissing everything I did? That she introduced me as her secretary's sister at every family event? That she used my career as a punchline? I let her say those things because I hoped that eventually, she'd realize that success isn't just one path. That maybe she'd see me as an equal, not a disappointment. But you could have said something, Dad insisted. I tried, I said. Remember Easter 2 years ago when I mentioned raising venture capital? Victoria laughed and said I didn't understand finance. Remember Christmas when I tried to explain what Neuralflow does? You changed the subject to talk about Victoria's caseload. Every single time I tried to share my work, you either dismissed it or ignored it because it didn't fit your narrative of who I was supposed to be. Brandon was reading his phone, his face getting paler. Victoria, this isn't just some startup. Neuralflow has contracts with Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. They're revolutionizing enterprise data analytics. This is legitimate. This is huge. I don't understand, Victoria said, and for the first time she sounded less angry and more lost. Why didn't you tell us? Because you never wanted to hear it, I said simply. You wanted a sister who fit into your worldview. The sister who didn't apply herself, who settled for less, who made you look good by comparison. And I let you have that because I was building something that mattered more than your approval. David Harrison cleared his throat. Maya, I apologize. I made assumptions. That was unprofessional. It's fine, I said. It's not fine, he said. You're not just successful. You're one of the most influential people in tech right now. Victoria, do you understand what this means? This is... He stopped, shaking his head. I need to make a call. He walked away, already dialing. Several other people were doing the same. The nature of the party had fundamentally changed. People weren't looking at Victoria and Brandon anymore. They were looking at me. Sarah approached cautiously. Maya, I'm so sorry for how Victoria talked about you. I had no idea. I've actually used Neuralflow's platform at my firm. It's incredible. The legal analytics feature saved us probably 200 hours last quarter alone. Thank you, I said. I'm glad it's been helpful. Could I possibly get your contact information? Our managing partner has been trying to schedule a meeting with Neuralflow's leadership team for months. I'll have my assistant send you our enterprise contact, I said. Tell your managing partner to mention you referred them. We prioritize referrals from existing users. Victoria made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Your assistant. You have an assistant. I have 3, I said. And a chief of staff of my own now. Turns out that's a real position. The aftermath. The party effectively ended after that, though people stayed. They stayed to talk to me. Partners from Victoria's law firm wanted to discuss enterprise contracts. Brandon's colleagues wanted to talk investment opportunities. People I'd never met were introducing themselves, handing me business cards, asking about our hiring process. Victoria stood in her ruined dress, watching her engagement party transform into my networking event. Brandon stayed at her side, but he kept glancing at me with a calculation I recognized. He was reassessing everything he thought he knew. Mom and Dad approached eventually after most of the crowd had dispersed. Why? Mom asked. Why would you hide this from us? I didn't hide it, I said tiredly. I just stopped trying to share it. There's a difference. We're your family, Dad said. Are you? I asked. Because family is supposed to support each other. Family is supposed to celebrate each other's successes, not use them as punchlines. Family is supposed to ask questions and listen to answers. That's not fair, Mom said. Isn't it? I looked at them. Name my company. Without looking at your phone, tell me the name of the company where I work. They couldn't. The silence was damning. Name one friend of mine. One person I dated in the last 5 years. One hobby I have outside of work. One book I've read recently. One restaurant I like. One thing about my life that matters to me. More silence. You don't know me, I said quietly. You never tried to know me. You just wanted me to fit a role that made sense to you, and when I didn't, you decided I was disappointing rather than considering that maybe you were wrong about what success looks like. This isn't how I raised you, Mom said, her voice breaking. To be this cold. You raised me to be independent and strong, I corrected. I am those things. You just don't like that I didn't need your approval to become them. Victoria appeared, still in her stained dress. Her eyes were red. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry, Maya. I didn't know, I never meant. Yes, you did, I said, not unkindly. You meant every word. You believed it completely. The only difference now is that you found out you were wrong, and that embarrasses you. That's not true, she protested. Victoria, you called me embarrassing 20 minutes ago because you thought I was a secretary. Now you're apologizing because you found out I'm a CEO. If I was actually still a secretary, would you be sorry? Or would you still think I was an embarrassment? She opened her mouth, then closed it. We both knew the answer. I need to go, I said. I have a flight to catch. Board meeting in Palo Alto tomorrow morning. Maya, wait, Dad said. We should talk. Really talk. About all of this. Maybe, I said. But not tonight. Tonight was supposed to be about Victoria. Congratulations on your engagement. I hope you're both very happy. I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't want her to be miserable. I just wanted her to see me as a person, not a supporting character in her story. As I walked out of the Fairmont, my phone buzzed with texts. Amanda sent a screenshot of our trending Twitter mentions with the message. Guess the secret's out. Drinks when you're back. My CFO sent the early user analytics from our Fortune coverage. Website traffic up 340% in the last hour. Enterprise inquiry forms doubled. You're officially famous. Anne Sarah Lou, Victoria's classmate, sent a LinkedIn connection request with a note. Thank you for your grace tonight. And for building something that makes my job easier. Looking forward to working together. I walked to the corner and ordered an Uber. Not because I couldn't afford a town car. I had accounts with 3 car services. But because I liked Ubers the same way I liked my Honda and my Reformation dresses and my house that didn't scream wealth. Success, I'd learned, wasn't about permission. It wasn't about approval. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about building something that mattered with people who believed in you on your own terms. Epilogue. 6 months later. The text came on a Tuesday morning. Coffee? Victoria. I was in my office reviewing our Q4 numbers. Neuralflow had hit $120 million in revenue that quarter. Our IPO was scheduled for March 2024. Goldman was leading. The projected valuation was $8 billion. I stared at Victoria's text for a long moment, then replied, sure. Saturday at 10. We met at a coffee shop in Berkeley, neutral territory. Victoria arrived early, already seated at a corner table when I walked in. She looked different, less polished, somehow more human. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down. "Of course. I've been in therapy," she said abruptly. "Since the engagement party. Actually, since the wedding got called off." I blinked. "You and Brandon. He wanted to use my connection to you to get neural flow into Silverman's portfolio," she said flatly. "Kept asking when you'd be ready to take my calls. Talked about how my family connections could open doors for his career. I realized he'd never actually seen me. He'd just seen what I could do for him." She laughed bitterly. "Kind of like how I treated you, huh? Victoria." "Let me finish," she said. "Please. I've been practicing this." I nodded. "I was cruel to you," she said. "Not just at the party. For years. I made you the disappointment because it made me the success. I needed you to be less so I could be more. And when you turned out to be," she gestured helplessly, "everything you are. Everything I'd dismissed and diminished and mocked. I couldn't handle it." "I know," I said. "My therapist says I was projecting my own insecurities," she continued. "That I needed external validation because I wasn't secure in myself. That I treated our relationship like a competition I had to win." She met my eyes. "She's right. I'm sorry. Really deeply sorry. Not because you're successful, although you are, and that's incredible, but because I should have been your sister regardless of what you did for work." I took a sip of my coffee, considering. What changed? Besides the public humiliation? She smiled sadly. "I read your Fortune article. The whole thing. There's a line where you talk about building neural flow without permission, without approval, just because you believed it mattered. And I realized I'd spent my whole life collecting permissions and approvals. Perfect grades for mom and dad's approval. Harvard for external validation. Partner track because that's what successful people do. Even Brandon, I chose him because he looked right, because he elevated my status. And now I'm trying to figure out who I am when nobody's watching," she said. "What I actually want, not what I'm supposed to want. It's terrifying." "It is," I agreed. "But it's worth it." We talked for 2 hours. Really talked, maybe for the first time as adults. She told me about leaving her firm to do pro bono work. I told her about the pressure of preparing for an IPO. She asked questions about my work. Real questions, listening to the answers. I asked about her therapy, her future plans, what made her happy. When we stood to leave, she hugged me. "I can't take back what I said. What I did. But I want to try to be a real sister if you'll let me." "I'd like that," I said. "No guarantees I won't screw it up," she warned. "No guarantees I won't be insufferably busy and forget to return calls," I countered. "Deal," she said. It wasn't a perfect resolution. We didn't become best friends overnight. But we became something real. Two sisters learning to see each other clearly, without the distortion of ego and insecurity and old family dynamics. 3 months later, Victoria came to our IPO celebration. She brought mom and dad, who'd been making their own awkward attempts at relationship repair. When the opening bell rang and Neural Flow started trading at $94 per share, giving us a $9.2 billion valuation and making my stake worth approximately $1.6 billion, Victoria was the first person to hug me. "Holy shit, Maya," she whispered. "You did it." "We did it," I corrected, gesturing to Amanda and our team. "No," Victoria said. "You did this. You built this. And I'm so proud of you." It was the first time she'd ever said that. It mattered more than I expected. That night, Fortune ran a follow-up piece. From Secretary to Billionaire. Maya Chen's Quiet Revolution. The article detailed my journey, the family dynamics, the engagement party reveal that had gone viral. They asked if I had any message for young women facing similar dismissal from their families. My quote was simple. "Success isn't about permission. Build what matters. The right people will see you. The wrong people's opinions don't matter as much as you think they do. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying to prove yourself and just be yourself." The article ended with a photo from the IPO. Amanda and me celebrating with our team, building something that changed an industry, proving nothing to anyone except ourselves.